62 Opekis bring on a good coach. After a rare disappointing round of on the golf course, Tiger Woods will often take a golf lesson. After a rare disappointing rounds on the golf course, Tiger Woods will often take a golf lesson. When I first heard about this, I asked myself, who could give Tiger Woods a lesson in the golf? But that was before I ever really understood the value of coaching. The person who taught me that value was a young business consultant named Steve Hardison. Hardison taught me this. Tiger takes a lesson not because his coach is better player who can give advice and tips, but because his coach can stand back from Tiger Woods and see him objectively. Because his coach can stand back from Tiger Woods and see him objectively. Steve Hardison had created an art form of coming into corporations and seeing things objectively. In fact, his perception ran deeper than that. He had near psychic power to see what was missing. It was a gift he could also apply to individuals, but only if they were ready for the rigors of his coaching. If they were ready for rigors of his coaching. I used to teasingly call one of his illustrative personal stories the parable of mission. As a young missionary for his church in England, Harrison broke all the records for enrolling congregants. He contrasted his own methods with that of other missionaries. He contrasted his own method with that of other missionaries. While the others would rush out and knock on the doors all day, while others would rush out and knocks on the doors all the day, Hardison would spend the first part of each day planning and plotting his activities. Hardison would spend the first part of each day planning and plotting his activities. By creating his day before it happened, he also able to combine visits, economize the travel time, and increase the number of enrollments conversation in the given days. Increase the enrollment numbers of increase the number of enrollment conversation in the given day. He also used his creative planning time to set up intra-neighborhood referrals for himself so that many of his visits came with a difference. So while the others would rush out and knock on doors all the day, Harrison would spend the first part of each day planning and plotting his activities. By creating his day before it happened, he was able to combine visits, economize the travel time, and increase the number of enrollments conversations in the given day. He also used his creative planning time to set up inter neighborhood referrals for himself so that many of his visits came with the reference. The other missionaries were very active, but they were not focused on. I mean, the other missionaries were very active, but they were focused on activity, not the result. They were in the business of knocking on the doors and scurrying about. Steve was in the business of enrolling people into the church. The records he set for enrollment were no accident. He planned things that way. Steve helped me to understand something that lives inside of all of us, something he called the voice. When you wake up in the morning, the voice is there right away, telling you that you are too tired to get up and too sick to go to work. During a sales meeting, when you are just about to say something bold To the client, the voice might tell you to cool it, hold back, and be careful. The trick is, said Steve, to not to ignore and deny the existence of the voice because there's there in all of us. No one is free of voice. However, you don't have to be obey the voice. However, you don't have to obey the voice. You can talk back to the voice, and when you really get good, you can even talk trash to the voice. You talk back to the voice, and when you really get good, you can even talk trash to the voice. Make fun of it, ridicule it, point out how stupid it is. And once you get into that way of debating your own doubts, you start to take back control of your life. Many times I would be in the middle of large business project and asked to meet the Steve for an hour. After he listened for a few minutes, he would almost invariably see right away what was missing in my behavior. He would almost invariably see right away what was missing in my behavior. Like a great golf teacher watching Tiger Woods' backswing, he would say, "Are you willing to accept some coaching on this?" And I would eagerly say yes. Then he would tell me truthfully, sometimes ruthlessly, what he saw. I didn't always like what he saw, but I always grew stronger from talking about it. Addison's coaching was so jolting that sometimes it reminded me of an incident that happened to me when I was a boy playing league baseball. I had injured my knee in the play at third base, and when the game was over, the knee was swollen and my entire leg was stiff. As I sat on the bench with my leg straight out in front of me, a doctor whose son was on our team was kneeling down by my leg as a father looked on. As my father looked on, I would like to be I would like to bend your leg now, he said to me as his hand gently held my swollen knee. I would like to I would like you to bend your leg now, he said to me as his hand gently held my swollen knee. I can't, I told. You can't? He asked, looking up at me. Why can't you? Because I tried and it really hurts. The doctor looked at me for a second and then said simply but gently, then hurt yourself. I was startled by his request. Hurt myself? On a purpose? But then, without saying anything, I slowly bent my leg. Yes, there was a tremendous pain, but that didn't matter. I was still mesmerized by his request. The doctor massaged my knee with his finger and nodded to my father that everything would be okay. I would have to have x-rays and usual precautions exam, but he was nothing serious wrong for now. But he saw nothing seriously wrong for now. I would have to have x-rays and the usual precautionary exam, but he saw nothing seriously wrong for now. But I was still aware that something very big had just happened to me. After a boyhood that was characterized by avoiding pain and discomfort of any kind, all of a sudden I saw that I could hurt myself if I needed to, and that could be do it calmly without betting an eye. What happened? But I was still aware that very big had just happened to me. After boyhood, that was characterized by avoiding pain and discomfort of any kind. All of a sudden, I saw that I could hurt myself if I needed to, and that I could do it calmly without batting an eye. Perhaps I wasn't coward. I would always thought I was. Perhaps there was a much courage in me as in anyone else. And it was all a matter of being willing to call on it. It was a matter of being willing to call on it. It was a defining incident in my life. It was a defining incident in my life, and it was not dissimilar to the way Steve Hardison, as a coach, has required that I call on things inside me that I didn't know I had. It was a defining incident in my life, and it was not dissimilar to the way Steve Hardison, as a coach, has required that I call on things inside me that I didn't know I had. One time I was having a hard time enrolling people into seminars and doing my prospecting calls on the phone. Steve grabbed the phone and started calling people and signing up them up. Steve grabbed the phone and started calling people and signing them up. Then he accidentally dialed a wrong number and reached some mechanic at the car repair garage. Most people would have apologized at that point and hung up and dialed again. Most people would have apologized at that point and hung up and dialed again. But rather than waste the call, Steve introduced himself and then stayed on the phone until the mechanic had signed up for the seminar. Hardison is gifted and courageous public speaker, a, rest, a resourceful and relentless salesperson, a talented athlete and committed family man and church member, the kind of guy who used to make me sick. Harrison is gifted and courageous public speaker, a resourceful and relentless salesperson, a talented athlete and committed family man and church member, the kind of guy who used to make me sick. I could write an entire book about Steve Hardison's remarkable work in the coaching and consulting, and someday I just might. Examples of way that he coached me to higher levels of performance are plentiful, but I think the greatest thing he has taught me is the value of coaching itself. Once you open yourself up to being coached, you begin to receive the same advantages enjoyed by great actor and athletes everywhere. Once you open yourself up to being coached, you begin to receive the same advantages enjoyed by great actors and athletes everywhere. When you open yourself up to coaching, you don't become weaker, you grow stronger. You become more responsible for changing the life. You become more responsible for changing yourself. In the road less traveled, M. Scott Peck writes the problem of distinguishing what we are and what we are not responsible for in this book is one of the greatest problem of human existence. We must possess the willingness and capacity to suffer continual self examination. The best coaches show us how to examine ourselves. The best coaches show us how to examine ourselves. It takes courage to ask for coaching, but the reward can be great. The best moment come when your coach helps you do the best moment come when your coach helps you do something you have previously been afraid to do. When Hardison would recommended that I do something I was afraid to do, I would say I don't know if I could do that. When Hardison would recommended that I do something I was afraid to do, I would say I don't know if I could do that. So don't be you, he would say. If you can't do that, then be someone else. Be someone who could do it. Be De Niro, be Bruce Lee, be anyone. I don't care as long as you do it. Coaching contribution to my life is illustrated in these words by French philosopher Guillaume Apollinaire. Coaching's contribution to my life is illustrated in these words by the French philosopher Guillaume Apollinaire. Come to the edge, he said. They said they were afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them, and they flew. You can get coaching anytime. If the coaching is appropriate for your golf or tennis game, it is even more appropriate for the game of life. Ask someone to be honest with you and coach for a while. Let them check your swing. Let them tell you what they see. It's a courage thing to do. It will always lead to more self motivation and growth. Thank you.